So, living a miserable life is something that I think most people don't want to be doing. So, what is it that we can actually start doing to stop living miserable lives? Because I speak to so many people, and really what it comes down to is this one piece of the recipe that everyone keeps doing. And it's so difficult nowadays because nowadays, especially, people are doing it on purpose, but they just can't stop. They're like addicted to it. So, this idea of comparing ourselves to other people is this energy sucker that literally just takes all the energy out of whatever it is that you're doing. And I think it's one of these things that if we could really learn to master, especially nowadays with social media, because like, you're telling yourself like, I need to be on social media because on the one hand, like I need to be able to get out there. But on the other hand, we also have to recognize that there has to be this balance in terms of like, I want it to be beneficial to me, right? With everything, there's like the good and the bad. So how are we going to use things to our benefit as opposed to just taking it away from us? And something that I personally struggle with. So it's something that I'm constantly working on and something that I think a lot of people out there are also going through. So recognizing that if we are starting to compare ourselves to other people and we start to see other people, what it is that they're doing, then like it just takes up so much of our headspace and realize that we can't do that. And if you look at the high performers in the world, they're not the ones answering. Like I remember I was speaking to somebody who was like, yeah, I was talking to so and so and they were chatting me on Instagram. And I was like, there's no way that person is actually chatting you. They for sure have like somebody else doing that for you, or it's a robot, right? So we're understanding that there are people out there who know their value, know that they can't be distracted. And the more that they get involved in certain things, then the more they're going to be distracted. Like you think about it, just like even like just news, right? People like look at news, like they're so negative all the time that like that just sucks away your energy. So the same idea of when it comes to living a miserable life. Like people don't want to be living this miserable life, but like they just can't stop themselves. So today I want to share with you 5 different tips that we can start doing in order to stop living this life of misery, just because so many people are so stuck in it. And I really wanted to see what other tips that I can try to share with you in order just to recognize what is that we can start doing. Because if we don't know what is the problem, then we don't know what it is that we need to be doing. So number one, first of all, if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. Also, if you have any specific topics you want me to speak about, feel free to do so. I know a bunch of people have been reaching out on that end. Okay, so number one, how can we start comparing ourselves to other people? Number one is to recognize that we need to cultivate self-awareness. And what I mean by that is that we need to start to understand what is it that actually gets us triggered. Right. For most people, it's very obvious. Social media gets people triggered, right? Some people could be their WhatsApp statuses that they're looking at other people. Other people, it's like they just need to know what other people are doing because like they need to know. But then when they finally know that like they just feel terrible about themselves. So what is it that triggers you? Because everyone's gonna have their own specific thing. And some people like, yeah, I love being on LinkedIn because like this is great. Everyone like loves each other and everyone's nice and it's like a totally different platform than everybody everywhere else. But other people are like, no, I don't like LinkedIn because I see the success of other people and that's just like terrible because like I'm not as successful as they are. So recognizing that we have all these things that are going to trigger us specifically and recognizing what is going on. Like, where is it that I can't stand? Like, is it like when I'm driving my car and it's like see these billboards of like bigger people like doing big amazing things, or is it the ads on YouTube that I'm seeing, or is it certain people that I speak to that I'm just constantly comparing myself to? And we can't stop doing that. If we can't stop comparing ourselves to these people, then we're just going to get down this rabbit hole. But recognizing first, where is it that it's coming from? Where is it that I'm putting myself out there that's going to help stop to do these things? And if I could stop to compare myself to these people, then guess what? Then I can actually start to move forward and recognize all those different things. So realizing that we need to do all that stuff is going to be extremely beneficial and extremely important to us. And if we could start to do that, then we can actually start to live our lives as opposed to the lives that like we're getting pressured on of living other people's lives. And that's really where the trick really comes in. So number one is cultivating self-awareness. The second idea, yes, number two, the second idea is we have to actually understand that like we matter and we have to actually start to love ourselves, because what ends up happening so many times is that people go through different things in their lives and they start comparing themselves to other people. But then what happens is that they think that their value and their worth it actually decreases because like they don't have X, Y, and Z because they're comparing themselves to other people. So recognizing that just because we're not that person and we're not hitting X, Y, and Z doesn't mean that we're not killing it. Doesn't mean we're not doing good things. And even if we're not, doesn't mean like we don't have other abilities and other capabilities that we are specifically doing that are going to actually help us and be more beneficial. So if we are comparing yourselves to other people, which many people are, like I said earlier, like I'm doing it. It's terrible. It's hard. And I'm trying to get myself over it. Recognizing that if we could actually show some more self-compassion to ourselves, understand that, you know what I'm living, my life that I'm living is actually going to be beneficial to me. And the things that I'm doing, I'm really proud of. And that's all I can really compare myself to is going to be the biggest thing. And, they say that the person you should only compare, there's only one person in the world that you should compare yourself to. The one person is who you were yesterday. And are you better than you were yesterday? And if so, then you're doing great. Because so many people are so hard on themselves because they have such expectations. I should be here. I should be there. But that's only because like we see other people, but we don't know what other people went through. We don't know what they've gone through that actually got them to those places. So if we could start to recognize that, no, each one of these things is going to be tremendous on ourselves, and realizing that if we could start understanding what it is that we bring to the table, what is that we can actually start doing, we have to understand that, wow, we are actually doing a lot better than like we thought, because we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people. But you know what? It doesn't matter what they are. It matters where I am. And if I'm better than I was yesterday and the day before, then guess what? I'm really like 3 or 4 or 5, 10, 100 steps forward. So that's what we really have to understand, where it is that we want to be hanging out. The third idea, which is probably the most obvious, but probably the hardest, is we actually have to limit ourselves to certain platforms, certain things that we're doing. And whether that's a specific amount of time, whether it's platforms altogether. I had a client of mine who he said, like, I just can't get off of a certain social media platform. And I just can't, it's like so addicting. I can't do it. And it's so draining, energy draining. He wasn't being productive. He found himself, he's just scrolling and being busy with it. And we've all been guilty of that. The question is like, so what are we doing? Are we not having it on our phones? Are we not having it on our computers? Are we only looking at it when we're in a specific area, like when we're at work, and not when we're at home? If you're working at home, it's only in your office and not, other places. So understanding that we are going to need to take a step back, and we all can use a detox, right? We can all really understand what it is that we're doing to really move ourselves and remove ourselves from these social media platforms. I recently just saw a post by a good friend of mine who said that for a week he didn't post on LinkedIn. And guess what happened? Nothing changed, right? So understanding that, yes, we have this peer pressure and this FOMO that we need to be engaged and see what's going on, but also recognize that like you'll be fine. And having that detox and really moving away and stepping back from it is actually going to be more productive for you. And because you're going to just be more productive, and B, you're just going to feel like garbage because you're not looking at other people. So if you start to see yourself comparing yourselves to other people and realize where they're going, then like you could really see what it is that you need to be doing and making things happen. And this is like one of the hardest things, because there's so much. Think about it. Like every social media platform wants you to just be on their platform, right? They're literally paying millions and billions of dollars to try to get you to stay on. So of course they're going to know how you work and how you function more than you do, which is like a scary thing. But recognize that, if we can actually take our step back, if we can actually look to be productive on these things, then we can actually become more productive, because we're not going to be so stuck, because we know, okay, I can't do this. And sometimes we're scrolling and it's like, okay, I give myself, maybe it's giving yourself, these 20 minutes. I could binge my Instagram, whatever it is. But recognizing if we're not taking advantage of it, it's going to be taking advantage of us. And if we're taking advantage of us, then we're going to start doing all these things and start comparing ourselves. And like, yes, there's like these cool cat videos that we can watch that are like, oh, that's awesome, or that's so cute, or it's amazing that somebody can do that. But then we all know there's people that we look at and we're like, I hate that guy or girl, they're so successful and this and that. And that's really like just not going to be beneficial for anybody. So understanding that is going to be something that we have to look to take around. The fourth idea, I think is just beneficial just in general with the type of lifestyle you want to be living, is understanding like who you're surrounded by. So if we can understand who we're surrounded by, and we can actually look to say, you know what, these are the people that I'm closest with. These are the people who I'm going to be most influenced by, because I really appreciate them and I respect them, and I want to there's something about them that I like, that's totally fine. And we should always try to find, Jim Rohn talks about the 5 closest people that we're with, right? So who are the 5 closest people that you're going to be with? Who are the 5 closest people that you want to be influencing you? And if you look at those people, because they're going to be 5 people, right? 5 people, right? So they're going to be at least 5 people, but are those people going on the path that you would be going down? Are they doing the things that you want to be doing? Do you look up to them? Are you jealous of them? Most likely not. There are people out there who have a lot more than you, who you're not jealous of. You're like even proud of sometimes. I know you have some good friends who like did X, Y, and Z. It's like, dude, I am so proud of you. And that's where we got to get to, where it's like, I'm not jealous of you. You're an inspiration to me. I want to try to reach to wherever it is you're going. And if we could start to do that, then we can actually look to become successful in whatever it is that we're looking to do. So when we're living this miserable life because we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people, recognize that, hey, if we have the people that are around us that are actually going to be people who we look up to and who are going to actually help us and not feel like they're judging us and we're judging them is going to be a tremendous game changer. So realizing who those people are is going to change everything for you to see what it is that you can actually start to do, what it is that you can take advantage of in order to become that person that you want to become. So instead of comparing yourselves in a negative, you're sort of finding these people who you're inspired by, who are going to actually help you grow, going to bring you up, and really look to see what it is that you're looking to do. And last but not least, we have to realize, and this is like huge just in general in terms of just judgment of other people, positive or negative, we have no idea what other people are going through. Like zero. We have zero idea what other people are going through. And they might post everything about their lives and everything might be fine and everything may be dandy. Like you have no idea. And how many people that I speak to who are like want to work on like their businesses and growing their businesses. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, my personal life is pretty trashed up, and that's why I'm focusing so much on my business, and that's why I have so much pressure on my business, and it's really affecting everything. I'm like, oh, so you think if you fix that, like that would be okay? And they're like, yeah, probably. So recognizing that we have no idea what people are going through, good and bad, and we should come into this, into these people that we all know that we judge and compare ourselves to, and recognize, you know what, they're just doing their thing, and they're going through whatever they're going through, and maybe their lives are amazing, like they're showing. But most likely they're people and they're human and they're going through their own ups and downs, right? Think about it. If you're not growing, then you're not living. Like you just can't stay stagnant in terms of whatever it is. So you look at these high performers, like even like Tony Robbins, like he's going through things that he's constantly working on. So on his level, maybe it's a higher level, but understand that like we can also be working on ourselves. So instead of judging the other person, oh, look at them, they're doing that. It's, hey, you know what? Let me have some empathy for this person. Like try to understand where this person is coming from. You know, I watched a video on Mr. Beast. Okay, coming out with my YouTube channel soon. I was watching this video on Mr. Beast, and he talks about how like terrible pretty much his like life is. And in context, he was talking about how like he can't leave his like compound, like where he does all his stuff, without being bombarded with people. He can't travel, he can't go on a plane, he can't go anywhere in the world without having thousands of people follow him. He's like, it's really annoying. You know, he's like, he loves his fans, he knows all these things, but recognizing that like there's a certain lifestyle that he's having. So on the one hand, you might be judging Mr. Beast like, oh, this guy's billionaire, he's 25 years old, he's killing it, he's doing all these amazing things, which is true. But on the other hand, like, feel for the guy. The guy literally doesn't, like, he can't have normal life now, right? If you think about it. And like, we're like in our computers or we're home or we're at work and whatever we're doing, and we're like totally fine. We could walk down the street and like not be bombarded with certain things. Like, he will never have that again in his life. And that is something that like, he doesn't feel bad for it. He chose that life. And he says like, I would do it all over again if I had to, but recognizing that everybody has their own thing and we shouldn't necessarily just jump and judge other people. Yes, other people might talk about how amazing things are and they're not, and things aren't as great, but like, okay, so that's your defense mechanism to make them feel good. So instead of like judging them on it, just feel bad for them, feel bad for the person, and understand that like everyone's going through something. Everyone just needs a high. Sometimes everyone just needs that hug. Like yesterday I was on a call with a client. I was like, dude, I just want to give you a hug. I know the pain that you're going through, and recognizing that we all have all of these things. So recognizing these 5 things. Okay, so the 5 things of how not to be miserable. If you missed it, we're going to go through one at a time. Right now, number 1 is cultivate self-awareness. Understand what actually triggers you, what actually gets you stressed out when it comes to comparing other people. Number 2 is loving yourself, recognizing that just because you don't have X, Y, and Z does not mean you are worthless. You actually still have a lot of value. Number 3 is limit your exposure on social media or whatever other area that you find yourself getting stressed out and comparing yourself to other people. Limit yourself to those places. Number 4 is getting yourself in the circle of 5 people who are actually going to be beneficial to you and to your growth, people who inspire you, that you're not comparing yourselves to, but look to say, hey, you're going to help me grow and become a better person. And number 5 is understanding that we have no idea what people are going through. And if we could just recognize that, we could recognize whatever it is that other people are going through, we have zero idea. We're going to get off a lot better, and we're not going to end up judging people, because guess what? They have the good, but they also have the bad. And the famous example I've heard since I was a kid is like, you know, it's like, oh, I want what that person has. Yeah, but you know, with their plate comes all their garbage too. Do you want their garbage too? And most people is like, you know what? I'd rather just keep my stuff because I know how this works. I know how this feels. And I'm going to become the best person that I could be. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you have any other specific topics, feel free to let me know. Would love to be able to speak about it. Going to be doing these live things pretty often. All right. See you all in the next one. Peace.